Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of Dram That's Good Scotch Review. Um, Today is, for many people, a sobering day, and I wanted to treat the anniversary of September 11th with the kind of respect that I feel like the day deserves. Um, these are the kind of things that don't really get easier over time for some people, and I won't say that it impacted me as much as it impacted some others, but on this day when a lot of people are going to be doing their own quiet and peaceful reflection, I'd like to ask everyone, of course, to respect that fact. Everyone has to mourn in their own way, and I think it's really important that we respect that as a society. But it doesn't change the fact that something terrible happened on this day. It also doesn't change the fact that the future is what we make of it. So, to do a little homage to this day, because I feel like one of the biggest things that came out of September 11th, granted all those, the day was terrible. I'll never forget where I was. I was in 7th grade. I was in, I want to say I was in Miss Cantu's class. And I had just gotten the phone call that football practice was canceled, and because I was a 7th grader, I didn't really have a whole lot of perspective on the world just yet. I was just happy I didn't have to run that day. And then I got home, and I walked in the front door, and I turned and looked at the TV, and I can still remember where it was in the living room even, and I saw one of the planes flying to the tower right as I walked in the door. Of course, it had been playing on the news all day, and it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Just hard to believe something like that happened in our lifetime. It's a horrible tragedy, but again, the future is what we make of it, right? And one of the I guess if you can say that a silver lining came out of that, and you have to look hard for it, you do. You have to make your own silver linings with this kind of stuff, is the sense of community that came about pretty much right after the event happened. And I feel like some of that has been lost over time. I feel like, this country is not necessarily as tightly knit as it was that day, and you'd hate to have something horrible happen for people to put differences aside. I want to get away from that. I want us to be a people that are brought together by something that we love. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm doing this review show, honestly, is because I love drinking scotch. And I know a lot of people as well who like drinking scotch. It's something that, it's one of those little things that my family and I have bonded over. By that I mean my brothers and my dad. All the tastings we've done. And just the cool places we've gotten to go, the people we've gotten to meet, the connections we've made by going to tasting events. It's really special. It's got a really strong sense of community, and I love that. I love that kind of thing. So on a day like today, when we're united by tragedy, I'd like to think about the good things like this that bring us all together. So I needed a special bottle for an episode like today. And within this wooden cask right here is something that my dad and my brothers and I went in on a long time ago. And we each kind of collected our own sample of it, and I got the very last of it. So we'll start here, but the click, let's see if the microphone gets the click, because it's just such a satisfying sound. Those of you who recognize the design will know what this is already. For those of you who don't, this is a bottle of Angel's Envy. It's a fantastic Kentucky straight bourbon. Once again, we're not doing a scotch tonight because, well, this is what I wanted to do. So it's what I'm doing. This guy is a 2013 bottling year, cask strength, 61% alcohol by volume, 123 proof, and that's all that's left. And I'm the kind of person who, I admit, I always try and find a good excuse to have a fancy drink. Like, I'm always looking for a good occasion to drink. I'm not the kind of person anymore to just get drunk because I want to get drunk. But I always like to find a special occasion to drink something, especially something like this that's really, really exceptional, a very rare bottle. It's humbling to drink the last of this bottle because this can't be replaced. This is one of the last bottles that came out before the original master distiller had passed. I've actually not had a bottle since the new master distiller took over. So once this is gone, I can't replace it. This is literally an irreplaceable bottle, and I'm tempted to leave just the tiniest bit in there as a result of that fact. But the reason this was significant for today is if you know anything about Scotch and whiskey, you know about the angel share. And the angel share, for those of you who don't know, is the portion of the spirit that evaporates as the spirit is aged in the oak barrels or whatever kind of barrels they're in. But a small portion of the alcohol evaporates over time. That's called the angel share. So, as an homage of what little homage I can do to the people who lost their lives this day 18 years ago and would never get to again enjoy something extremely fine like this, if there was ever a fitting time to finish something so special, this would be the time. So, big thanks to my dad and my brothers for splitting the cost of this bottle with me, and I think we pretty equally drank all the parts, maybe not, but at this point in time that doesn't matter because I'm the only one who has any left. And there it is. Through the magic of the internet, I'll be able to remember this moment, and that's all that's left. I only hope it doesn't evaporate in the bottle over time. That would be a real tragedy. Real waste, I should say, but it's been a long time since I've drank this. Long time. I had some pretty much right after I got it, and it's been a couple of years that it's been sitting in there just collecting dust, unfortunately. Because, again, I'm always looking for a special occasion to drink it. This feels right. Going over the basics, the color is just beautiful. It shows up on the camera as almost an amber color, but here in my hand it looks like thin caramel, and it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Really slow legs on the edge of the bottle. They've still just barely started dripping. You can see that. It's just so satisfying to look at this one. I'm thrilled to have this bottle, and I'm thrilled to be able to share this review with you guys. This one in particular was finished in port wine barrels. And again, it's been a while since I've had it, so we'll see how well I remember the flavor, but I think it's going to be really damn good and probably kind of sweet. Let's find out. So, I have in fact had a small glass of Angel's Envy since the new distiller took over. Or since the new master distiller took over. The one difference between that bottle and what I just tried is that even given time, given how long this has been sitting, because again, this is a 2013 bottling, even given how long this has been sitting for, it's unapologetically hot. It pulls no punches. Like, this is not your average little smooth Scotch sipper. This thing packs a frickin' punch, and it's not afraid to hit you with full flavor right off the bat. But, as is often the case with something like this, when a spirit is young, it tends to have a lot of flavors that get taken out over time. You know, there's an art to finding the perfect age for a particular spirit to say that you've taken out all of the roughness, all of the impurities and everything have aged out into the barrel, and you've still got something really flavorful left behind. You know, I've had some 30 and 35 year stuff where you can taste it's incredibly smooth and it's like drinking water, but you can tell something has been taken out, like something is missing. This isn't missing a damn thing. It's hotter than hell. If you are looking to drink this in the middle of summer, you're going to have a bad time. Because damn is it hot, but it's peppery. It is just all the way through, whole tongue peppered. Really, not actually sweet. You know, you hear a port wine barrel and you're like, okay, that's got to be a sweet taste. It's actually not terribly sweet. But it's every damn bit of 61% alcohol. You can taste it. It's just sweet enough to be enjoyable. It is peppery all the way through. It lets you know for sure right away you are drinking some damn fine alcohol. And it leaves the most pleasant burn in your throat. But the main note I'm getting out of this, honestly, is that sort of peppery flavor to it. And I would love to, with that little spit that I've saved in the bottom of that bottle, compare it to a more modern version of the Angel's Envy. I'd love to see how they stack up side by side because, again, this is effectively irreplaceable now. So that's kind of cool. But let's give it one more taste and see if anything else comes out of it. On the nose, it's mostly caramel. A little bit of heat coming out of it, but honestly, I'm just mostly getting caramel out of it. It could be that my nose is burned out today. So the nose on that doesn't give me a whole lot. I'll be honest. For some people, maybe it does. For me, I don't get a lot off the nose. What I get out of this is I feel like a little more peppery than I would like, but otherwise it's pretty much just the epitome of what I like about a straight bourbon whiskey. It's spicy, it's got some heat, a hint of pepper, just enough sweetness from the port wine finish that you notice it without it overwhelming the flavor, like the natural body and flavor of the whiskey that you're drinking. You don't feel like you're drinking a whiskey that's trying to be a whiskey and Coke without any Coke. You're drinking a whiskey, and you're enjoying it. It almost feels insulting not to give this bottle a 10 out of 10, but I'm not going to. The reason being that at the 61% alcohol point, I feel like it's just a little too hot, and you know what you're getting into. When you see the bottle and it says 61.5%, you know it's gonna cook your throat the whole way down, so it's not like someone didn't warn you. Somebody warned you, the bottle warned you. But it's also just not necessarily my thing. You know, I'm a Scotch guy. This was a special bottle to review, and it felt perfect for the day. It felt absolutely symbolic. But for me, this is not one that I can give a 10 out of 10. I can happily give this a 9 out of 10 and say that if it was allowed to age a little longer, to not be quite so hot, it'd be perfect. And I know you could easily put like a drop of water in there or an ice cube. And if you want to do that, that's your business. Again, I won't ever tell you to drink a certain way or not drink a certain way. But me personally, I like to taste it the way that it was made to be, the way it comes out of the bottle. That's how I drink my bourbon. That's how I drink my Scotch. I see no reason to dilute this. I want to enjoy it as it was intended to be enjoyed, as one of the last surviving masterpieces of a master distiller who I'm very, very proud to have consumed their product and very much enjoyed it. I'll be honest, not to screw up this review, but I can't remember the price point that we paid for this bottle. All I know is it was a lot. And by a lot, I'm talking, probably at least 100 to 150 would be the low estimate that I've got for you guys. And as an every once in a while sipper, if you could find any vintage of this, again, this is a 2013 bottling, if you can find any Angel's Envy vintage for, you're probably going to be realistically looking in the 150 to 200 range, and I'm assuming that's going to be a low-end estimate because this shit's expensive. It's worth it. It is. It's absolutely worth it as just like a late fall sipper, early winter. This would be perfect because it'll warm you right up. But it is enjoyable, and I love the bottle. I love the shape. I love the angel motif with the wings. It just looks nice on a shelf. And on a day like today, when everyone's got a lot of sobering thoughts and there's a world that feels like it's missing something, like it's missing a certain warmth, this is the warmth that I would like to share with the world if I could. For the Everyman review, 9 out of 10. Absolutely recommend it if you can find it for a reasonable price under, say, $150. And be ready for the heat because it's coming. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching another episode. We'll have another one out next week, and at that point, we'll probably be dialing it back to more reasonable stuff because I've burned through most of my expensive collection already. I've got a couple of surprises hidden for later on in the series, but for now, we're going to dial it back a little bit and do a lot more of the scotches and bourbons that you're likely to see in the $40 to $50 range. Stuff that realistically on the show, if you're watching it, you might say, hey, I've seen that on the shelf before, but I don't know if I want to drink it or not. That's the kind of stuff we'll be looking at. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week with a more reasonably priced bottle. And remember, the best way to drink whiskey is from a glass. Happy Patriots Day. Thank you all so much for joining me.